Welcome to this presentation, Biological Border Protection. After this presentation, you should be able to recall the terms biological border protection and biological border control. Importance of good movement planning regarding biological border protection, and host nations and sending nations' responsibilities regarding biological border protection. This is a general presentation. Different nations may have different regulations regarding biological border protection and biological border control. Biological border protection is important for all movement that crosses borders between two countries, regardless if it is a national deployment, a United Nations deployment, or a NATO deployment. Biological border protection will affect the way you are planning movement operations. ISPM number 15 is developed by the International Plant Protection Convention that directly addresses the need to treat wood materials of a thickness greater than 6 mm used to ship products between countries. The ISPM 41 is the standard identifies and categorizes the pest risk associated with the use of military vehicles, machinery, and equipment being moved internationally and identifies appropriate sanitary measures. Used military equipment is the third most probable causes of such transfer, second only to the movement of live animals and the movement of dirt-moving equipment. NATO Standard 2557 provides the minimum standards for NATO nations and guidance both the commanders, veterinarians, and to responsible movement personnel to prevent the spread of biological hazards, with special focus on cleaning and disinfection procedures. When conducting movement of military equipment across borders in peacetime, for instance military exercises, civilian regulations will apply. Note that the nations will have different civilian regulations regarding biological border control. It is the host nation or the nations that the military equipment is moved through that decides the regulations, not the sending nation. To ensure that the sending nation has fulfilled the host nation's requirement, military and civilian veterinarian officers execute a biological border control, usually a part of the reception operation in coordination with host nation's MOVCON. It is the sending nation's responsibility to be informed of the host nation's regulations. This may be a challenge when deployment to peacekeeping or peace-building operations. Host nation in a conflict area has often not established specific biological border protection regulations and are at the same time not able to conduct the biological border control. Failing the host nation biological border control will delay the movement and often create economically consequences, port expenses, delays in unloading the cargo vessel, rental of cleaning equipment, and storage space. As a military movement officer, you might be involved in both the planning and the movement flow through the down wash station. As a military movement officer from the sending nation, you will often be the responsible part at the host nation's port to provide the right documentation for your national cargo or vehicles. If failing in documentation, the movement will be delayed until correct documentation is present. If the washdown or disinfection is not done correctly, you may have to do that one more time. When packing national equipment and preparing for a movement, we need to make sure that the wood packing material are safe to use and accepted moved into another nation. We have in this presentation introduced you to biological border protection. Key takeaway: Movement of military equipment is a risk factor for all nations. Measures to reduce the risk will become even more important. Biological border protection will have an impact on movement operations and must be considered in the planning process to avoid unexpected delays. Thank you for following this presentation.